Welcome to Believers, where you can learn and discover from those that take committed action in their business. Learn from their experience, knowledge, and wisdom, born out of putting their time and effort into what has purpose and meaning for them as leaders. Their self-direction gives them continued motivation in the face of hardship. And from them, we too can be inspired to discover our very own path of value and committed action. Please welcome your host, Benyaacov-Kurtzman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Believers Business Showcase. It's another live talks, and we have a wonderful guest on our show today, very relevant to today's situation. Ed Faber. Ed Faber is in the food and drinks business. He is a strategic growth consultant. Okay, we're going to find out together what a strategic growth consultant is, and together we will hopefully learn some really important nuggets of information from Ed. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Ed into the studio from the green room. Hello, Ed. Hello, Ed, and welcome to Believers Business Showcase.
Good to be here.
Wonderful. So we are going through a particular distressing time in industry. All industries are affected. And there's no doubt in my mind that the food and drinks industry is affected as well, especially with all sorts of lockdowns, all sorts of furloughs going on. And just generally, even though I understand that industries are getting a lot of help from the government, they're getting loans, they're getting grants, some of them. But you are a consultant, a strategic growth consultant, as it happens. And I find that intriguing at times like this, where I have to ask you, is growth possible during a recession? And is it wise to think about that?
Okay, so unfortunately the sound quality isn't good, but I think I understood possibly what you've asked me. Look, the food and drink industry is probably going to be affected more than certainly going to be. People are nervous about going out to eat and drink, and we will be certainly the last industry to recover from this pandemic. So with that in mind, it's super now for businesses to think and behave strategically than ever behave. They'll have business plans in place, which really will have to be almost ripped up and started again to cope with the new kind of external environment that we're all living in.
Right. So I think it's really important for our viewers and listeners to understand what is the function of a strategic growth consultant in the food and drinks industry. Where do you actually fit in, and where do you fit in under the environment and the circumstances that we're living in today?
So again, I could only barely pick up on your question, but in terms of what I do and where I fit in, so I work with manufacturers, with entrepreneurs, people who come up with ideas, supply both retail and the food service sector, so restaurants, hotels, multiple supermarkets. And really to give you a bit of background, Scotland, for a small nation, I'm based in Glasgow, we export over 5 billion worth of product, food and drink product every year. And of course, we know who the big players are in that market in terms of whiskey and salmon, two largest. But actually, the nature of our industry is that the majority of producers and manufacturers are small entrepreneurial organizations, SMEs, sometimes with a handful of employees. And actually, the Scottish Government strategy for growth has designated to be organizations is having a disproportionate positive impact on the growth of the economy. And those are the guys that I look after, because they very often don't have the resources they need to expand the business the way they want. By resources, I also mean, not just physical resources, but maybe skill, knowledge. So that's a little bit about the background into my industry. One of the things that I find is almost two types of business. There are entrepreneurs who come up with a great idea. Of an entrepreneur, so they're great at spotting opportunity. They are risk takers, generally another classic behavior of entrepreneurs, but they maybe don't have business acumen to get this going, to get it started. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. If I can't hear you, then I'll let you know. It's a little bit sticky, but we can definitely hear you.
So the other type of business is those that have maybe a business that's already 5 years in, and all of a sudden the business starts to slow down, level off, even go, and need to reinvent themselves almost. And there's a lot of behavior in that. There's a lot of emotion in that, because they've created almost like a baby, someone, an organization that they're emotionally in. And it's not so easy to come to sometimes start decisions such as, actually, we have to completely reinvent ourselves and throw out the old product, which was my brainchild 10 years ago, fresh. So I'm there to help those people come to good understanding, emotionless understanding about how this.
So that sounds a very interesting part of your job, whereas one of my personal interests is behavioral psychology, and what you're talking about is kind of a business psychology. So basically, an entrepreneur who has developed his product or developed his manufacturing line or whatever is emotionally attached to that product and that business. And then when we come to a situation like today, when the context has kind of changed, the environment has changed, it's sometimes difficult for the entrepreneur to adapt themselves to the current situation, and basically might go down a maladaptive route where they might be causing themselves damage rather than doing something useful. So what kind of things do you advise them with on that, and how to deal with that kind of thing?
Again, I'm really sorry, but I only heard about a quarter of that. Unfortunately, technology is letting us down a little. So I'm not sure I picked on your question, sadly. But in terms of helping entrepreneurs, particularly SMEs, reinvent themselves, their behavior, that's the hardest thing. It's one of the things that I try to do. There's a whole raft of support that I can provide them. Very pro operational advice, but really, ultimately it's down to the bench. Really, organizations exist to create terms of profit for shareholders. That's what it's about. Everything else is second. And actually, if you focus on value, helping people discover competitive advantage, we call it, new areas of competitive advantage, then advice to business owners is the same, especially in this very volatile environment that we operate in, is to constantly be tuned to the external environment, almost try and get ahead of the changes that coming, and those changes might be, they could be as drastic pandemic, political. It'd be like ability for organizations to cross border, being part, but to understand the change environment and move and be flexible and reach out for help, because actually there's nobody in this land, and take advice.
Okay, so I understand, and I think it's a great message, is be flexible and reach out for help. And I suppose reaching out for help would be reaching out to somebody like yourself. And if I was watching this and I was a business person needing help, how would I contact you?
Okay, so I heard the word contact, so I'm guessing you want to know how people would contact me. So, well, we have an informative site. Go to www.faberstrategicgrowth.com, and from there you can see the range of services that we provide. I just encourage people to start a conversation with me. We can get involved, formalities later, but the important thing is just to talk, and to, my ethos is, first seek to understand and then be understood. So I'm just happy to talk to people and understand their issues and see how I can help them. So,
so that was www.faberstrategicservices.com.
Faberstrategicgrowth.com.
Faberstrategicgrowth.com. So unfortunately, we had a little bit of trouble with technology. We are cross-border between Scotland and England here, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But in the meantime, Ed Faber, thank you very much for joining me on the Bleeders Business Showcase.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Disclaimer: the Bleeders Business Showcase Show is for entertainment purposes only and not professional advice. To inquire about something specific regarding the contents, we suggest you contact the guest speaker directly. Should you wish to apply to be a guest on the show, please contact Benyaacov-Kurtzman on factcpfa@gmail.com. Benyaacov-Kurtzman is founder of Heads Up CIO, a UK emergency response charity for cognitive psychological first aid, and is a highly experienced psychotherapist, executive business coach, and author of the book Mind Over Terror: 3 Weeks, 2 Cities, 1 Mission. With over 10,000 hours of experience and academic degrees in government, law, clinical social work, and a postgraduate diploma in psychiatry with distinction, Dov is well placed to help you. He's also available for public speaking and corporate training.